her do certain things that I wouldn't do. I mean, she's probably a lot braver than I am. I don't go off after murderers, hardly ever. But I definitely do share with her a love of old houses and architecture, and I did work in the renovation business for quite some time, so that's what I bring to the story. And it's true, her father in the book is my father, definitely. And the son, she has a stepson in the series. It's not her biological son, but she has a stepson. And he was based on my son at the time when I first drew up the proposal for the book. My son was about 16, and he was in the grunting phase. I don't know if anyone remembers being 16 or has a 16-year-old, but that's the grunting phase. So he would just like, and I would look at him and I think, boy, I know that there's a smart kid under here. I know it, and you know, it'll emerge eventually. And he's now 21 and he's very eloquent. So there you go. So I did draw a lot from my life for the book, but I think she's also very different from me.
How are the two of you different? Other than, like she's going out and getting murderers.
She is going out and getting murderers. I think she has. I think she's more fearful about, ironically enough, other than the murderer part, she's more fearful about certain things in life. She was really stunned by the divorce and that sort of thing, and part of her character arc is it takes her a long time to kind of get back into not being bitter about it, I guess, getting over that. And, I guess I should ask my friends, but I feel like I didn't go through that as much. I had a very different path from her in that kind of in a personal sense. Also, she's very, very responsible, and she winds up taking over her father's company and then living with her father, even while she doesn't really want to, and she's constantly wanting to be somewhere else. And I've probably been more selfish that way. I pretty much have moved around and seen a lot of the world and done the sorts of things that she would like to do, and I've already done those.
Well, as you said, Turner Construction is proudly a family business, and it's unusual for family to be such a positive and important central part of stories. Do you enjoy writing about a close-knit, happy family? And again, it is really unusual for those types of stories.
It's true. Well, that's a really good point. It is true. I think that I do enjoy writing about a happy family. In the books, I think it gives Mel kind of a safe, sheltered place to be, and even though she's exasperated a lot with her family, she still has that really strong basis. And I actually did that primarily because I was coming at it from having written the Witchcraft mystery series, in which she had almost no family connection. She was so cut off from everything. And I think, for anyone who's writing more than one series, it's a challenge. You want to have very different central characters, or at least I did. I wanted to make sure that they were very different from one another. So I did set out kind of consciously to give Mel that really strong, super, talk about ties to the community. She could never really leave. She's so invested in that life and what's going on. And then it's fun to bring those characters in from time to time, obviously.
So Melanie is super organized and competent, yet dealing with ghosts puts her in situations that she has very little control over. How do you combine the reality and the supernatural elements of the story together? Is that something where you're plotting? Is that something that you're definitely going over? How do you combine the natural and the supernatural?
That's a great question, because I always feel like, in fact, I can't remember which book it was. It was one of the recent books. I had been kind of fighting with this plot, and then finally something came to me, and I was so happy, and I remember I was on a long walk, and I'm like, yes, I nailed it. And I wrote out this long synopsis for my editor. I sent it off. I went on a long walk, and I can still remember I'm charging up a hill, and then I was like, I forgot about a murder. I didn't kill anybody. I had a whole great ghost story with no murder, and it's like, oh, I forgot to kill anyone.
That's a good one.
So yeah, sometimes it's hard with the Witchcraft series. I've got the Witchcraft, I've got vintage clothes, and then I have murder. So it's the three elements really. And then in the Haunted Home Renovation, I have the renovation that's happening, the ghosts, and then the murder. So, and then of course within all that you have characters and whatnot. So yeah, there are times that balancing those are difficult, and one of the biggest challenges for me is that I always want, in both cases, I want the witchcraft or the ghost to be an integral part of the story, and to have it be, I don't want it to be a murder mystery with ghosts thrown in, or with witchcraft thrown in, and I don't want it to be a ghost story with a murder thrown in, although I just gave myself away. Apparently I did that. But I always want it to be integral, so that the ghosts are part of the solution, or part of the problem. They're part of the mystery, in other words. Even if the ghosts are from 100 years ago, there's something that they have to tell her, or something she has to figure out that's going to help her with the mystery of the murder. So that's the hard part, is how to tie those together, and then how to make that a compelling story, you know, at the same time as the contemporary story.
So the next book in the series is Home for the Haunting, and it's coming out December 3rd, just a few weeks. Now, I know that you can't give out spoilers, but what can you tell us about it?
You know, Home for the Haunting, it's so funny. I'm so interested to see what readers think, because it was one of the very few books I've written that by the time I finished it, I thought it was a good book. Which is funny. I always, by the time I finish it, I'm like, oh, what is this? And I just send it to my editor because I have to, and I have a deadline. And then it's so funny, because later if I go back and read it, I'm like, yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. But usually by the time I'm done writing a book, I've rewritten it and dealt with it for so long that I'm just so sick of it that I just can't stand it anymore. And for some reason, this book, I finished it and I was like, that's a pretty good book. So I'm pretty sure that everyone's going to hate it. It starts out, Mel is working with a group that I worked with for many years called Rebuilding Together. Do you guys know this group? It used to be called Christmas in April. And if you don't know about the group, it's a great group, especially if you're at all interested in renovation and that kind of thing. I learned a lot. And it's similar to Habitat for Humanity, except that it helps people who already own their homes, but who can't afford to have certain repairs and whatnot made on the homes. So usually it's elderly and disabled owners who can't afford to keep their homes up. And you go in for a weekend, and it's like a barn raising. It's like 70 volunteers swarming over this place, and it's astonishing what you can get done in a weekend. And so I did that. I was house captain for 6 years. And it's one of those things where it must be like childbirth. You forget how painful it is, you know, until the next year, and then you're like, sure, I'll do that again. And it's a lot of work, but it's also really, really a wonderful thing to do. So I have, at the beginning of Home for the Haunting, Mel is renovating a place for Rebuilding Together. And then, of course, with all her volunteers there, then they find a body. And then there are ghosts in the house next door. So she winds up not being able to finish her volunteer project with all the volunteers. So now she knows she's going to get stuck having to do it, and you know, that kind of thing, which always happens.
Well, I've had a lot of fun talking to you, but let's have the audience ask you any questions. So, yes?
Do you think you're going to write any more of the Art Lovers?
Oh, that's a nice question.
It doesn't seem like there's going to be any more books. I'd like to see one, though, because I actually really like that series.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I love the Art Lovers Mystery Series, too. And I don't know. That's my answer, unfortunately. I would love to do it, but it is one of those things that the other two are going so well that it's really hard to find the time to write more of those, unless the publisher decides to reissue them, and that's actually a possibility. They might reissue and then do 2 more books to kind of finish it off, because it was finished.
It wasn't
Really finished. This is what happens a lot of times with a series. I mean, some people really set out to write a trilogy or something like that, but often with mystery series, you do just keep writing them, you know, as long as people are buying them and as long as the publisher wants to. And so, because the lead time on publication is so long, you don't know that your series has been canceled until, you know, long after you've written that last book. So yeah, I would love to finish off the series, but I don't know if I'll be able to. I will try, though. It's still always on my mind to try.
I have another quick question. Annette Coffrey.
The what?
Annette Crawford, I think that was the
Annette
detective.
Crawford?
So she's in 2 of the series, but she hasn't shown up in the witchcraft series. Is she going to show up in the witchcraft series? I'm just curious.
That's a good question. Maybe I should have her do that. It's true. I'm glad you noticed that. I borrowed a character from the Art Lovers series and I put her in the Haunted Home Renovation series just because I enjoyed her and I just thought it'd be fun,
I like
kind of
her.
a nod. But I haven't thought about bringing her into the other, but I might yet. That would be fun. Yes.
Next. Anyone else?